It's 16, I guess.
17.
17.
We have,
Um,
yeah, cool.
Is January 15. I'm calling the Port of Entry Advisory Committee to order. It was posted in the agenda, and we'll start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. No?
Roll call.
Roll.
Yes.
Pledge of allegiance, please.
No, roll call prevent.
Roll call, yeah.
Roll call and then pledge
Roll
of
call.
allegiance.
Roll call and then the pledge.
Okay. Mónica Salinas,
Here,
Carlos Fernández, Jesús Olivares,
Here.
J.D. González,
Here.
Luis Hinojosa, Rick Laurel is on his way, Arturo Dominguez here, Emilio Richet,
Here.
third, David Puig, Tony Arce,
Here.
Rodolfo Roberto Garza Benavides,
Out here.
Jorge Cavazos,
Here.
Jerry Jason Hinojosa, and Gerardo Maldonado.
There we go.
Present.
There we go. Perfect.
All right. Sorry about that.
Viene head first.
Sorry about
Dick
that.
roll call.
Where we at? All
Pledge of
right.
allegiance.
Pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I apologize for that.
Traffic lights.
Mine's road traffic.
Aye.
No worries.
Thank you.
I apologize to the city for any red lights that I ran. All right.
public,
Agenda, where's the agenda?
they are making copies, but it's the public comments.
Yeah, do we have any public comments? No public comments?
Can I make a motion to excuse the people that are absent?
I have a motion, can I get a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, approval of the minutes from November 20th.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, well, first I want to say Happy New Year to everybody. Welcome back for a 2025 year. And we've got a couple of items on the agenda that were passed on to us by City Council. We'll just dive it right in. First item, discussion with possible action on raising the bridge toll fees to fund, one, the Port Authority Department, and two, bridge expansion projects and legislative activities associated with the port, specifically to request the Port of Entry Committee give advice and counsel and any matters related thereto. Open the floor for any comments.
Are this raising of the fee of the bridge, it will be towards improvement to bridge, or it goes to the general fund?
It says right there what it's going for.
So the, idea is to fund a port authority. So back in, 1989, then, State Rep Henry Cuellar, passed legislation on a port authority for the city of Laredo. And unfortunately, it was never adopted by the city of Laredo, but that is where this is going to. The plan, as I was explained, was to hopefully adopt the port authority. City council has to adopt it first. But the funds is what's tricky, because all port authorities around the country, the funds for all the port activity are for the port authority and for projects. And correct me if I'm wrong, but here they want to increase the tolls so that a percentage of that can go towards the port authority for bridge expansion projects and any other projects like the ones that we have going on with the roads that we're trying to get to the entry lot and so on and so forth, removing the bat cave, expansion of software capabilities and, you know, improving trade along the border in Laredo. So that's the idea. I'll leave it up to you guys to bring up any questions or concerns, comments.
Yeah, you know,
the discussion of Port Authority has been around for a long time. I think, since the first bridge was ever built here in the city of Laredo, the city council is the Port Authority. And basically, its extension is the staff at the bridge department. They're the ones that administer the day-to-day operations of the bridge system. It's a system. That's what it is. And that system has been cultivated throughout the years by the city. And it has been able to put the city in a very strategic position internationally wise, transportation wise, commerce wise. So when you talk about developing a port authority, there's a very, very potential capability there that you can take authority away from the city. Therefore, a port authority is going to be created that will manage, control, disseminate all the revenues that come into the bridge system. Therefore, that is going to limit the authority that the city council or the administration is going to have in order to operate the bridge system. It's been around for a long time. I think there's various groups outside of the city that would love to get their hands on the revenues that are generated at the bridge system. Very easily, they could get a hold of that revenue there and make priority highways and everything outside of the bridge system, and those things can impact the growth of the city and the direction that the city might go. But at the same time, they can the council is going to have to be the one that raises their hand and says, we're going to sell bonds to pay for the expansion at the bridges, and the Port Authority doesn't have that authority. Simply because the council is going to have to be the one that says that if these bonds ever go bad, we have the right to raise your taxes to pay for these bonds. So little language that's in that bond covenant that the city council has the authority to do, not port authorities. The port authority is basically just an extension. There's many port authorities throughout the country, and it's basically giving that responsibility to somebody else. Let somebody else run your business. That's basically what it is. We just got to be careful because that business could take off on you, and before you know it, we're not going to be able to do expansions because they've already went out and spent most of their capacity on other projects. Right now, the city of Laredo concentrates on the bridges. And that's basically what has been happening since, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. So now you want to develop a port authority that might take that away, and the expansions that the bridges are going to require in the future could take a back seat to that, because possibly that funding that the city or the Port Authority could have access to from the bridge revenues could be utilized in expanding highways and flyways and those type of things. There's many ways to leverage those revenues, but I think right now the city of Laredo is very well positioned to be able to control its destiny, and its destiny is the future of the port. we do have two major projects, expansion at Colombia, expansion at World Trade Bridge. Those two projects are pretty close to 200 million that it's gonna require us to look at very carefully as to what our fees are gonna be here in the very near future as to raise revenue, to be able to pay for that debt service and still be competitive on the border to be able to compete with other cities that have bridges. It's a real sensitive issue, and I think I would encourage the rest of the board members to, you know, ask questions about, this particular project, but it boils down to who controls the money. That's where we're at right now.
So, Mr. Chair,
Mr. Dominguez?
so this law is already enacted in the state of Texas. This is Mr. Cuellar looking into a future that this port was gonna be big. In the port authorities that exist is the Water Code of Texas, and all the water ports have to have a port authority by law. Has nothing to do with the city. They do the offloading, loading, they'll lease properties, they'll sell properties, warehousing, storage, everything. So if you look at the legislation, and I think you kind of touched that legislation a while back, where they changed it to the Port of Entry Authority. They just changed the name, because everything looks the same. But the actual bill talks about, all 100% of the revenues of the bridges go to the Port Authority. I guess Mr. Cuellar never thought that money was a very important money for the city nowadays. It's like to run the city, even though it's $80 million, but it's a good amount of money.
Yeah, so just to notify that, the amount of money right now that's being brought in is around 73 to $80 million
A year.
a year.
And so the board is very similar to this one, according to that document. This is the board. And then what they can do is all of that. They can sell, do all the things that have to do with trade, bridges. I mean, they basically control the port. That would be even the airport as well, is part of the port, the cargo and all of that. And so that's what he gave that bill or that law to the city, that they didn't have to do a referendum or some type of ordinance. It's already in the state of Texas. I think in order to really trigger that and start that, they would have to change the legislation, amend it to come with a percentage and maybe what they want to do with it. But right now, as it states, if they were to trigger it, everything would go to the Port Authority. That's basically what it is.
Mr. Chair, yes, that's why I wasn't aware of that, but yeah, as most of us are aware, when you talk about port authorities, you think about Houston, Corpus Christi, where they're seaports.
Ocean ports, right?
Huh?
Ocean ports.
Yeah, I am not aware of any other border community that has a port authority, so is it even applicable? I know you said there was some recent, or legislation that maybe led to a reapplication, but traditionally, I'm not aware of any border
Yes.
community that
Yeah,
has a
I think
port authority.
I think Nogales created one, but it created it like a corporation thing.
Like
Yes.
LEDC?
Yeah, something like that, to that nature. It's not by the legislation, nothing like that. But there's only one water.
There is
There's
one?
only one dry port.
Non-water port, yeah.
A dry port like
Because
ours.
traditionally, they've been the ports.
No, it's in Arizona, Nogales, I think.
Nogales.
Oh, Nogales, but you're saying that was not like legislation?
It was just through
Called
legislation.
it,
It was through the city.
It's called Port Authority de allá, but it wasn't through their legislation. It was just like a corporation thing.
for some reason, I thought there was a city in Texas that had one.
Well,
San Antonio has
San
Port
Antonio
Authority.
has one.
San Antonio has a port authority. They do have a port authority, and they have a pretty vast port authority. And I looked it up, and it's a real good combination mixture of the LEDC and port business.
Well, it's defined in the legislation who can be on the Port Authority. You got a banker, you got international trade.
It's pretty much what we have,
Well,
what
exactly.
we have
It's the same
here
thing.
now.
But then we're just an advisory group.
Right,
Not
so,
fake.
so the idea is, on the Port Authority is possibly creating or converting the Port of Entry Advisory Committee into that Port Authority, given with some, powers, if you wanna call it, like the, what's it called? The planning and zoning. Like planning and zoning. But that can very easily be done. The tricky part is the money.
Well, the
Thing
tricky
is,
part is the
you know, I mean,
bond.
I agree, I said, that's kind of what this group was created, is Port of Entry Committee, call it what you want, but it's a lot more affordable to have us as volunteers than to have a salaried staff that, as Mr. Olivares alluded to, you know, is gonna take up a lot of the revenues and. so-
Well, including, so it's like a combination of this Port Authority and the Bridge Department. So it would be like a combination of, because you're not gonna have a Bridge Department and the Port Authority.
It's, Mr. If I may, yeah. This item to me is very vague, and it doesn't mean anything. I researched it also, and something like it doesn't exist. My suggestion is, before we go as far as, because the language of increasing our bridge tolls is right at the very beginning.
That's another
Right.
topic.
That's a
So
set,
it's,
we'll talk about
it's
that one.
three different things in one item that are, in my opinion, they're very confusing. I would suggest respectfully, we go back to council and the mayor and get clarification on how this would actually work. I don't think there's a path to it. It's a thought that was thrown out there, and then it was discussed in council, and then it was thrown to us. But I don't, this doesn't mean anything. And the part that is, concerning to the transportation community that I represent is, we will only do this if we raise the bridge tolls fees to fund it. You know, we go back again to what we did, you know, in 2018, where we were short money and we decided, yeah, let's raise the bridge tolls because we need $5.4 million more, you know. It shouldn't be that way, you know. The driving.
The cart before the horse.
The driving industry of the town shouldn't be the one to pick up the slack when we need extra money for things. Our world is very different, and a lot of times education of how our world is needed. We move freight every single day, but we have contracts, we have already numbers set up with our customers. We cannot wake up on a Wednesday and say, oh, by the way, every one of your loads effective today is gonna go up $3 because the city decided to raise our fees. It's not that simple.
And believe me, it's not just transportation. Everybody that's on here is
So,
affected. by
again,
it.
but I'm speaking for transportation
Yes.
because we're the ones that pay the bridge fees, right? So,
Oh, but yeah, but it's everything, but
Yeah.
as a trucking company, of course.
you charge it to us.
End customer,
or to
yes,
customer.
but the one that has to go pay is the trucking company crossing the
You
bridge.
have to go back to somebody, tell them it's
Exactly,
$3 more.
yes.
Yeah.
So no, it's not that simple to just, you know, raise your, every one of your loads by $3 or $2 or whatever the amount may be. I think there needs to be a lengthier conversation in what the intent here, and furthermore, can it even be done? This may be something that it can happen.
So to answer that question, yes, it can be done. It would take a lot from city council to adopt it. First, they would have to adopt the legislation that's already at the state. They would have to adopt it, and then they would have to figure out the monies that go to it. Now, my first pushback was, hey, you can't just, like you say, wake up on a Wednesday and say it's $3 more. There's contracts in place and things of that nature. We're all on the same page. And the reply was, well, maybe it can be done not all at once, but maybe, as you know, escalated little by little to get to the $3 after X amount of time, blah, blah, blah. But what I find very interesting is that for the first time in 30, 40, 50 years, this is a topic. And it's, for us as a trade community, it's a good topic because they're considering a huge change with the city and how our industry is affected by the city and by the monies and who can actually make the changes that are needed at the ports. So it's a double-edged sword. We don't want more fees, but at the same time, we do wanna have input, people in the industry should have the input on expansions, on upgrades, on technology, on anything. That's why we're here. So for me to hear that, hey, they want to create something that's going to give them more authority over the ports, for me, personally, that's a good thing.
Mr. Chairperson, but don't you think that we first has to be set up
Yes.
as a committee auditing the money before we do the increase? Because they can tell you whatever you want to hear, like, oh yes, we are going to give you this, just raise the toll, and at the end,
They're not gonna.
No,
they are
no,
not
no.
going to give you the port authority.
Right, no,
So
no. And I agree
you
that.
cannot run before you walk.
No,
Remember-
they're putting the cart, like I said, they're putting the cart before the horse. So the first step would be adoption of a port authority. And then figure out the funding of that authority. Right now, they're just saying, hey, let's raise the bridge tolls and
Figure out
and
what
then
to do.
figure out, and that's not.
And the bridge tolls, remember one thing, there's two ways to see it. First of all is, at the end of the day, our customers are gonna pay for it. We're sat in the rate. But right now, a lot of contracts that everybody has, the trucking, the warehousing that pay the trucking on the customer's behalf, we already have a best rate, $150. And if you put up somebody's losing $3. It's really hard to tell customer, that customer that manages gets a $8 million account or $3 million account, like, oh, we're gonna give you a $3 raise. Like, dude, shut up. I give you $3 million. Don't ask me for a $3 rate increase. But so somebody's gonna lose it by the time you convince them. So if we do get convincing, it's them who's gonna pay it. They have to look. Whoever accepts a raise has to see a big benefit. So it's hard for them to accept a quick raise on how can we sell it to the final user for them to pay a $3 or $5 increase. And for some people, it's $5 a day. For other customers, it's 5 times 100, it's $500 a day because of the amount of traffic
Right.
that they use. So it's, for every end user, it's very different. It's not only $5 or $3, it's just the amount of trucks they cross.
Right.
But what's the plus? What's the plus? Is it the expansion that we're going behind in the city of Laredo and the port of Laredo? Infrastructure say, hey, we're building this for international trade and to create more plus to the international, to the trade community. And for that, now it's gonna cost $3 more because we need those $3 million, et cetera, et cetera. So what's the selling point that we need to go sell to our final customers?
And just to add, because I agree with Jerry on this, that I've been on a lot of port authorities for the last 20+ years, and this is my potentially third bridge increase. With that being said, every time they've asked for a bridge increase, nothing has gone to what they said they're gonna do other than minimal amounts. So they're not even naming an amount, it's very generic. And, they gotta get back into details, because I know last meeting, they talked about a bridge increase. Now they come back, they said, oh, we're gonna do it for Port Authority, and, like Chewy said right now, we need expansions. We gotta move forward with that. Now we're gonna get the pot, move it to another government entity to control it, to see where we move forward. Hey, we gotta take action. We can't just sit there and create another entity that they're gonna sit there and generate.
Mr. Chair, I think,
We need clarity.
we do need to send something back to the council. And, staff, if you could just make note of this, is that, first of all, there's a conflict because there is no Port Authority department that could be. It cannot be a Port Authority under the city.
And that's pretty much what they're
And I think that's a question that legal has to answer, as opposed to what would be the Port Authority department any different than the bridge administration? Right? It's no different. If you want to create something like that, you're going to have to create that legal document that separates it completely. So the Port Authority would have to be separate from the administration. Cannot be governed by the city manager or anybody like that. It's the Port Authority basically would operate on their own board authority, right? I think the other question that is being posed to us is the bridge expansions, the bridge. I think we can answer those and very clearly send a recommendation back to the council and let them know that, do we think that it's a good idea right now to do this? Right now, we have bridge expansions, and this is how much it's gonna cost. I feel that increasing the fees at the bridge are basically solely in order for us to be able to pay for that expansion. We still have to figure out what the debt service is gonna be for that construction. And I appreciate the finance, department being here, in case there's any questions that we might need him to answer. But this is not, specifically something that we're gonna figure out tonight.
No, I don't think so either.
I agree.
Mr. Rivera? Can I go?
Yes.
So back in 2018, como dijo Mr. Maldonado, they raised our fees for 3 reasons. One, they were gonna raise them because they were gonna do the fast lanes. That was a $10 million project. They were gonna do the master plan for the bridges, was another 50-something thousand. And then the last one is we were gonna have 2 police there, permanent at World Trade Bridge, which I've never seen them. Honestly, I've never seen them at World Trade Bridge. And so that's how they sold it. And then we came and we spoke to council. We said, council, they haven't signed, they're gonna cancel NAFTA, they haven't signed it, let them sign it, and then we can move forward with this. And so they increased it. 9 months later, Congressman Cuellar sends Mr. De Leon to the ¿cómo se llama? MPO meeting and makes them vote to move CBI money, the $10 million from Loop 20 to the fast lanes. And they voted yes. So they moved those 10 millions to the bridge, but our fees were stayed up there. They kept them up there. They didn't decrease them. They didn't do what they said they were gonna do. The only thing that
They
they
didn't use
promised
the increase for that.
for that purpose,
From
and
somewhere
that's what
else.
I'm saying. So I would make a motion, if they're gonna increase a toll fee, that they increase the tourists, the cars only. I don't think pedestrians should pay for this. So if they're gonna increase a fee, it belongs to the cars now. That's my motion.
And that fee would be the MPO's, fee, right?
So it's funny that we mentioned the MPO. So the MPO is an autonomous,
Well, it's the city, Webb County, TxDOT, and now the RMA sits in that.
they're funded by,
Well, they're the money that are given from the state,
The
which
state,
is 80% state, 80% federal, and 20% state money that comes to
I think
Laredo.
I'm confused
They,
with
they,
the RMA, with the
Monday?
regional, with the RMA that
Yeah,
you said.
that one only gets the license plate.
and they have to go through legislature and get those, fees increased. So, and I agree with you, because if they want funding, they have a mechanism to get funding,
Well, they already
instead
bleeded,
of getting into the city's, coffers, right?
they bleeded trade 2018, now it's time to bleed somebody else. The tourism, I don't think they wanna increase taxes, right?
Exactly.
Entonces, bleed the cars. Sorry, but if they do wanna increase something, I think it belongs to the cars now.
Now, several of us sit on, several of us, we're getting asked for more money from different sides, right? So we're on this board, and we're being asked for an increase. We're on the, Bond Appropriations Committee, and we're asking for more money. It seems that we're asking for more money everywhere, but I don't think that, a 4A, 4B tax has been explored, or other options before going to industry or going in the bond to the people. There has to be other ways to be able to fund things. And the 4A, 4B tax, I was reading up on it. It's for infrastructure, and it's for different items, like what's coming up in this bond, in this upcoming May bond. So I think it would be a good time, this next meeting, because both topics will probably be agenda items at city council, to be able to ask for that or explore that option. Because that 4A, 4B tax,
Venue tax.
there is a sports venue tax, but I don't think this would fall under it. But a 4A, 4B tax would help fund both different things that we're trying to ask the people
Yeah,
money for.
but that money's tied up through the sports venue.
And even,
tax already.
you know, you talk about, additional methods of creating funding. There's some that we just we haven't looked at. For those of you that are in the transportation business, I'm sure you're in agreement that you would like to see your industrial lots paved, concreted, intersections taken care of, and get rid of all the potholes that are out there.
Infrastructure upgrades.
And I think that the infrastructure committee, or the bond committee, struggled with that. But I don't know if they even took the time to talk to the industry about it. I think that between the city, the industry, possibly even bringing in, you know, the state, could be a possibility of leveraging some resources that every year we could do 10, 15 intersections in the industrial parks. Because that was one of the priorities that the infrastructure committee had, but they couldn't come up with a mechanism as to how to put it on the bond package. You know, just, okay, we need $100 million just to pave all these industrial parks. They just couldn't come along with that. I think in the future, that could be something that this body here could get together with those folks and maybe come up with an idea, because I don't think we've even explored the idea where, you know, reaching out to Richard Raymond and those folks and, you know, increasing a little bit on the vehicular, the 18-wheelers in their license, maybe just a little bit that would go strictly just to paving. And the way it would have to be written up would be, you know, any border city with 250,000 population and up has the authority to implement that 25-cent increase or $5, I don't know, however it might be, that would generate a certain amount of money every year that could be leveraged to do the industrial parks. And because it's the industry itself that's creating the revenue to help themselves cover the area, the industrial parks, and so forth.
So like tolls,
Yeah,
it would be like a toll.
yeah. Well, it's a tax and the license, but you still get them. Because now I think the inspection is only gonna be for the big trucks on that.
Not vehicles.
That's one area that could be leveraged with the city. Could be leveraged together with the county. Because the transportation industry here, it's not just the local trucks. It's everybody that comes into the city.
But they don't pay taxes locally.
Yeah, so there's a permit for that. But those are all discussions that I was hoping that the infrastructure committee would have been able to explore.
I was in that committee. I can explain. The first one is, they didn't have the manpower to pave all those roads that they want to do in, I don't know, more than 10 years. And they wanted to ask for a credit for 20 years, and those streets don't even last 10 years.
I think the length of the time was the
And then the 10 years. And then you have an increase of $533 million to buy things, and you still want to increase it another 300,000. That's why we said no. It was too much money. It was 28% of your rate of your property, and so that's why we said no. And we did discuss at least 30 million, and we all said no. But that's what we recommended, is to go back to the charter and have amend the charter, or add to the charter that they would use 5% of the budget every year to pave the streets. That's what we recommended. And so hopefully they'll put it in the charter so you all can vote one of these days that they use 5% of their budget to pave the streets. And that's about it. I mean, you don't need Port Authority to do that.
Now, what about, when I say toll, I didn't mean a toll on local transportation companies. I meant a toll on foreign.
So as an industry, at a national level, all of the US, the trucking industry supports increasing the fuel tax The fuel tax has not been increased since 1993. A gallon of gas pays 18 cents. 18 cents of every gallon of gas that we pay, when we fill up your vehicle, it's a fuel tax. For diesel, it's 24 cents. It hasn't changed since 1993. Every year, we suggest to the federal government to increase it because we need better roads all over the U.S., not only in Laredo. And like you can imagine, nobody wants to talk about taxes. Nobody wants to raise the taxes. Yet, they want money from somewhere else. Increase the fuel tax. It makes no sense whatsoever that it has not increased since 1993. What other thing has not increased since 1993? Nothing, right?
Minimum wage.
So it's one of those things that as an industry, yes, we beat up the roads and we fuel up every single day. 24 cents of every gallon of diesel that we purchase goes into that fuel tax right now. And it's not enough. It's never going to be enough. So we support it. We advocate for it, but they never raise it. So in that aspect, we support paying more. We agree. You know, our drivers are out there. Our equipment is out there on the roads. It just hasn't happened yet. In regards to the bridge toll, to the local bridge toll fees, my suggestion would be that they come up with a plan that can be presented to the industry, to this committee, and say, we propose we will raise the bridge fees in the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, so much, and tell us in black and white what the proposal is for. If you do something like that, it's easier for us to negotiate our contracts, our yearly things that we do, and even share that even with our customers, with other users. Hey, you know, our rate is gonna go up so much this next year because of this, because the city of Laredo is gonna use that money to do these projects and get it in a way where it's structured where that's what they do with the money, not just raise it. You know, the whole raising the bridge fees, it comes as conversation and then everybody wants to make a decision quickly on it. It's not that simple. We understand everything increases every year, you know, and we get it. Everything costs more every single year, and there's gonna be a structure for that. So our suggestion to management, to go back to the council, is come up with a structure. Let's be professional about this. We understand things cost more, and it's fine. But let's do it in black and white, transparently. And that could get you, that's an easier sell
And stick to the plan.
for all of us. Yeah, and stick to what you say you're gonna use it for. You know, don't, you know, like not what happened in 2018, you know? That will be my suggestion when it comes to raising the bridge fees. You know, it's an easier sell for us to take it to our customers and all of our customers and show them, you know, this is what it's for. The bridge expand, whatever it may be, something that is gonna help us move our stuff forward.
You know what, just to add on to what Jerry said, in addition to that, the hotels have a tax, a city tax as well. Why can't you just do that for the fuel tax, city tax as well? Just a recommendation.
Can you tax city?
Well, that's what I'm
gas?
saying, the hotels can do it,
No,
maybe
I'm
they
asking,
You know what?
can you tax local gas stations for local monies?
But they could do
Not
some
for that.
amendment in the city.
The
or
only
state, right?
time you can tax any facility like that is through the building code. When they're gonna build something, there's a permit. That's the cost.
So not a sales tax of the gas?
That belongs to the state.
What about something
You had a
like,
motion.
I have a motion, but nobody seconded. But like, for example, and I'm not just in your industry, but there's a lot of trucks that come in here that don't have a terminal, don't have
True.
employees, don't have anything, don't pay taxes here, don't
But
pay.
we pay
any-
taxes on the service that they bring.
They just come drop off a load and they pick up a load and they're making money both ways.
Yep.
And they'll park at
But
any.
they buy fuel, they buy water, they buy.
No, yes. No, they buy that, but they're messing up all the roads. They're,
No, but
they're.
it's part, but they give you business, and they give me business, and they give everybody business. Yes.
But a hamburger is not enough
No,
to
no,
pave
no,
the
no, no.
streets that
They
they're
bring the
damaging.
freight, no, they bring the freight that you need for your Mexican customer, or that you cross from,
Yeah, but somebody's paying him to make money.
no, I understand.
And so something to look at is how we can kind of bill that person to come into the port, just to use the port, some type of user fee for somebody that doesn't.
I think I would like
We'll
to,
get to this right now.
I'll be a committee that brings out that way of thinking or promoting that we have to pay users that want to use our streets to come drop off loads.
I can't agree.
You know, we're talking about 7,000 loads that, trailers that come in today to drop off, and 7,000 that come in to pick up. Of course, some will start here or whatnot, but like the ones you're talking about, I don't know what the percentage is of, that they don't have any base here,
Or
but
that they have to, or that the city puts a parking lot where they have to park, they have to get an Uber, take it to the Whataburger, wherever they wanna go. And that's it, I mean, but roaming around Mines Road, just in their cabins, all over the place, the tractors, and I think they're just messing up our streets and the parking lots all over the place. Honestly, it's 18,000 pounds, how much do they weigh?
I would do it, I would think a little bit further, and how can we make it better for those trucking industries and those truckers to wanna get a load and come to Laredo and make it cheaper as possible for companies to wanna do freight out of Laredo instead of wanting to go to McAllen and other parts in Eagle Pass, that it's easy to get in and out and nobody gets in trouble, because we need that Laredo to keep surviving for the next 5, 10, 25, 50 years, and that we need to figure out a competitive advantage, because I think our neighbors on both sides are growing and expanding, even Colombia, which is a closer partner to us, but at the end of the day, you know, we don't want drivers to go in 35 and just go to Colombia, drop off and turn around and go in. We do want them to, I understand what you're saying, but come to the region and give business to the, you know, 50 million square foot facilities that we have right now. So that's how do we make it better for them? It's both sides of the scale. I understand what you're saying.
It's like
but
what Trump did with the tariffs, he says, I'm gonna tax,
Oh, that's
I'm gonna
Trump.
give a tariff to China, because they dump a lot of cargo here, the merchandise, and they don't buy anything from the United States, that's the same thing, they make money here, but they don't leave any money here, I mean.
But the customer,
Whataburger's not
the
enough.
system does. The system, Laredo lives on that system.
Estoy de acuerdo. I mean,
100%.
But Mr. Maldonado and his freight company, he pays taxes, he does all of that.
Yeah, that's fine.
They go to, they park there, they'll take them to the hotels from.
It's like he goes, delivers in Newport, Nebraska, or Newport, and he's not gonna wanna pay tax to have, you know, to go there. You know, as an industry, it just, you know, so it's hard. I understand what you're saying, because the cost of having 3, 4, 5,000 trucks rolling around our city, we probably don't have the budget, we haven't done it correctly to make it infrastructurally stable, or for it not to hurt our infrastructure. So that's where you're going, maybe.
What I'm trying
But-
to say is, I mean, I don't think there's another city that has so many trucks roaming around the city.
But that's a blessing.
No, I know, it's a blessing, but then again, it's damaging all, and
But it's
the
part of
city
the
can't
cost of
even
doing business.
pay the
Jerry,
pavement.
how about
We as a
the,
city,
how about
we
the
need
girls,
The cost of
vehicle
doing
fees,
business.
would you mind an increase on that or not?
I mean.
What was the question? I'm sorry?
The gross vehicle weight fee, then it goes, you guys are paying, what's that, $54 for 10,000 and so forth, it goes up to max 840 for up to 80,000 pounds.
Yeah,
Would it be
2290.
willing?
All the heavyweight stuff.
Yeah, it's,
But it's part of the license plates, part of the plates, I think, right?
Yeah.
So that goes to, that we can generate income off of that, right?
exactly.
And
Every
state,
state is different. You know, our trucks are plated in Iowa, for example. Corporate offices in Iowa, but there's a lot of people that are corporate in Texas, right? So every state is different, and it's something that, you know, we've paid our fair share, and we completely agree that as time goes by, you know, things cost more money. I understand that to pave a street now costs more than it did 5 years ago. We get it, you know, everything goes higher, but, you know, we gotta look at alternate ways of funding these things, and, you know, there's several other ways that we can think of it.
We need to come up with a taxing for Iowa trucks.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
Also, getting back to just the increase in toll fee, I know when it was done X amount of years back, has there been a study, how does our current rates compare to the other land ports? Brownsville and McAllen.
You know what, there's always a lot of discussion on that, but you know, the weird thing is every time I go to DC and I have discussions, they say the amount of income that's generated in Laredo, why can't they spend the money more, more appropriately instead of having to request additional funds. Because we generate more money than all the other ports combined.
Because it's sucked by other entities.
But I guess we can't have the attitude that just because we're the number one port, we'll always, everybody else wants this business. And to just increase for the sake of it. I mean,
I concur
are we,
with that.
huh? Are we competitive?
So,
I think,
yes,
are we
right.
competitive? I mean, you all do business all across the Rio Grande Valley. How do the rates in FAR compare?
It's my understanding that we are below the average of all the other ports, including the closest one, which is Eagle Pass, which is what we're like really afraid that any business would, if it would leave us, it would go to Eagle Pass, it would bypass us.
Correct.
And we're about $3 to $4 cheaper on a 5-axle truck than through Eagle Pass. That's why the bright idea of, well, there's room to play with, and
So it is confirmed that we are competitive with our.
we are
current
very
rates.
competitive.
We're not the highest, but we're not so far up like the nearest ports. That's true. Mr. Esparza, Jesús Esparza, ya se nos fue, ahí está. Mr. Esparza,
No, man.
You know?
pase al confesionario, sir.
Yeah.
El que estaba ahí es el del Pachi. He's the one with the money.
So,
Oh,
you had a,
motion?
Mr. Chair, just to kind of, wrap, or kind of,
I think we should wrap.
I don't know,
item
this
one,
thing
'cause
up.
We're not gonna vote on
I think
anything,
you
right?
had a motion, or you take it off the
But he's second
table?
the motion.
But the
You
motion.
give an opinion.
The
You
motion
said
was-
it was
To
a
go to
motion.
pedestrians.
No, no, not pedestrians, automobiles.
Yeah,
So, I don't know if it
the
was
non-commercial vehicles.
non-commercial, so,
If they're gonna increase the non-commercial traffic, it's time for them to take the lead, not trade.
Well, those are gonna have to be considered too, right?
I don't know. They didn't consider it in 2018.
as of now, it's only trucks that they're considering.
Yeah,
If
let's see,
they
look.
were to do it across the board, I mean, obviously it would be more beneficial. I mean, it would make more revenue, but, they've only considered,
raising taxes.
axles. So, yes, go ahead.
Okay,
Puros
so,
dueños.
not to get off topic, so, first of all, are we gonna suggest that they scrap the whole Port Authority
No,
idea?
no, and I don't recommend that we do.
That's what I heard
because
from
this is-
everyone, I mean, that's, everybody said, oh, Port Authority is this, and all.
I think what they're saying is they want a better clarification of how the money is and where the monies are gonna be spent. But within that ask, we have to ask for them to adopt it first and not put the cart before the horse so that we can, step one is adopting the Port Authority. I don't want them to get away from the thought of of having a Port Authority. That is great for our industry.
And if they don't adopt it,
Well, that's another story.
Right,
If they, wait, if they do not adopt the Port Authority, and they do not take our suggestions, they can still raise the tolls based on city council votes.
And
Right,
consider,
And we don't have a say, and we don't have
Yeah.
anything in that.
Yeah, because Mr. Olivares' point is, what's imminent here are the bridge expansions. Can we agree on that, right? So I think what the spirit of this is, let's
And any other
raise the bridge
projects?
tolls to be able to fund the bridge expansions, right? And they kind of threw in the Port Authority as a rider or whatever, along the same thought. However, has anybody talked to Vanessa Perez? I mean, she's the one sponsoring
Yes.
this idea, because I made a suggestion, kind of like the same fuel thing. All right, these trucks that are getting to Laredo are gonna have to refuel here, I would imagine. So has anybody, done a study to see how much money we're spending on diesel just in Laredo and how it compares to other cities in Texas? And maybe that offset this whole population disparity we have with other cities. And when I brought it up to Vanessa specifically, she said, well, I've thrown out the idea that if they designate Laredo as a port, and then when they go and distribute the state, when they distribute the funds, they not look at just population, but also the fact that you're also a port. So is the whole spirit behind this suggestion to then make us a port?
Yes.
So that we then can say, hey, we're not just another city, we're also a port. And therefore, we should allocate more funds. And not
Correct. And in
necessarily-
order to be considered a port, you have to have a Port Authority, and
Okay,
so
so I think
step
that's
one,
in the
step
spirit
two,
of that.
step three. I think what they're doing is they're jumping to step 4, step 5 of funding before they have to do all these steps before they figure out where the funding should come from. And what did you say?
Mr. Esparza.
Mr. Esparza, if you don't mind, has that been brought up? Have you heard of anything that if you can come up here to the podium, please.
Have you all allocated money for that expansion? Because Mr. Cuellar said he would pay for it. It's only $20 million our side.
Jesus Esparza with the Budget Department. I have not heard any discussion as to it relates, how it relates to that.
Yeah, so again, Mr. Maldonado is correct. There is a lot of vagueness, a lot of gray area, a lot of still sitting down and having to figure it out on how this is gonna pan out. Thank you. If there's.
No,
if
Mr.
there's-
Esparza,
or
do you all
unless-
have the $20 million for the expansion or not?
20 million, actually, we're talking about a lot more than the 20 million for the expansion as,
Just World Trade, not the other bridge.
World Trade, I think it's about $40 million for the expansion, and they've already spent some money on.
It's already funded, right?
No, it's not. The World Trade is not funded yet. Neither is the Columbia.
So where is it,
Colombia, no,
as of today, where is that money supposed to come from? What is the plan there?
Well, we had some discussions last year during our budget process when we talked to our financial advisor. Our financial advisor we'll be looking at different funding sources that are available out there, including bonding, is one of those options. We are definitely gonna have to discuss that during this budget process with management as to how that funding is gonna come about for next year. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why the question came up on the increase of the tolls, and having that discussion before the committee as well to get input from this committee to council as to how we're
Well,
gonna.
weren't we presented with the expansion project on how, with timelines on when it's supposed to be completed and everything by 2027? And, well, that's 2 years from now. I mean, how do we not have funding for that already
They've been funding as
as they go?
they're doing
Some of the funding has
environmental.
been funded or paid through the operations of the bridge. But the other thing that we need to consider is that we cannot fund, especially if we're gonna bond, we can't bond two-way in advance because we have a limited time once the bonds are received to spend that money. So as the project is materializing, that is when we strategically plan the financing of it, and our financial advisor also has a big role because they look at the best time to do the financing.
And that's not gonna be included in this next bond. It wasn't even a topic.
Well, no, because the referendum, if you're referring back to the referendum, that is bonding that is supported by tax dollars, property tax dollars.
You're talking about,
The revenue for bridge is supported through the revenues of bonding, it's a revenue bond.
It's an
oh,
enterprise.
Yes, it's
enterprise.
an enterprise fund, it's a revenue bond.
Gotcha.
And the 40, clarification, the 40 million, let's say it's 40 million, it's for our half? Or is that for the whole bridge from Nuevo
That's, I
Laredo,
believe
from the
that's-
Mexico to the
No,
US?
that's just our share of it,
Okay.
as I understand.
We were told it was 20 million, and Mr. Cuellar said I would pay for them and I would pay for the other side, and that was a joke, but
Not in the
that's what he said.
preliminary numbers, and as Mr. Outlet mentioned, I think two meetings ago,
Yes,
there was a
October.
presentation where they covered some of those expenditures, or those timeline and the cost of those.
All right, well, back to this topic. There is no, thank you.
Thank you.
There is no clarification of how the monies will be spent. It's very vague. It needs more precision. I plan to attend that meeting to speak on that item. I'll write something up, but I mean, we're all invited, it's open to the public. And I suggest that anybody, and especially yourself, Mr. Maldonado, and everybody else, to attend, to be able to speak up on that behalf.
Can
I
we make a
could- I could
motion to
write-
table it right now, or can we just put it on table?
Well, the motion, we need to come up with a motion to present something to city council for next week. That's next week's city council. If we table it, that means our meeting will be next week after this next city council.
No, Mr. Chair, maybe we ought to just, since we're all here and put the question on the table, everybody that's on the board, who supports the Port Authority? Do you support it or not? And maybe that's what we need to send back to the council.
So that we can go in there with an idea of, we do support the Port Authority, however, we wanna have clarification of the fundings and how that's gonna happen. Because, and all due respect, if we say no, and they still vote, you still have an increase.
I know, I know how that works. They're supposed to
And
be there.
I'd like to get something out of it if we.
They're supposed to be there to listen to our advice, as we are the ones that are supposed to advise them. That's the goal.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it doesn't work like that most of the time, which we should work on that, you know?
Yes.
They respectfully, they need to remember that if they send something to a committee, their job is there to be our voice and not hear our opinion and then still vote whichever way they feel. That's, personally, I think that's wrong.
And they did back us up on the air monitors, and that didn't happen, so. Yeah, so I guess I'd like to make a motion to vote, to see who here, would like to see a Port Authority first off. And then from there, we can come up with, some sort of letter that I can present to council in their next meeting where we agree with the Port Authority, but the funding XYZ afterwards. So I guess,
Yeah, you want me to put it in the form of a motion?
yes, please.
I'd like to put on the table as to, the board's, feelings as whether they support a Port Authority or the board does not support the Port Authority. And I would make a motion that, the Bridge Advisory Board not support a Port Authority.
What? Wait.
He
second-
put a
the second-
motion not to support.
Not to support the Port Authority?
Not support a Port Authority.
Okay,
Now, if the board
what was the
decides to
second part,
support it,
Mr. Olivares?
then vote on it.
yeah, to not support it. So that's your
Not
vote right now.
support
So
a
then
Port Authority.
we could vote not to, and then it's gonna pass backwards.
Yeah. What was the second part of the motion? You said about the bridge advisory?
No, he called it a bridge committee instead of port of entry committee. Our committee, yeah.
Yeah, we don't support the concept of Port Authority.
We do support,
For the
we
No,
do
he
support
said
the
no.
Port
No,
Authority.
I made a motion.
His motion
that we
is
don't.
to not to support. So now we gotta vote.
Well, do we have a
It's
second?
up to you all, whatever
Yes,
y'all
wait,
decide
wait, wait,
to.
We have a
Are you
motion.
asking-
Are you
are
for or
asking
against? We could be against. That's
This committee
what I'm saying.
to determine by a show of hands if we are supportive of a Port Authority or not.
Yes.
Is that?
That's
The
what he's asking.
advisory board, does the advisory board support a Port Authority or not?
Okay, so that's gonna get a second?
I will second that.
All right, so all in favor of supporting a Port Authority, raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All against?
Passes.
It passes, so. okay.
But then.
No. Just support a Port Authority, not the funding.
Yes.
Yeah, the Port of
That is
Authority.
clear. We support a Port Authority. It would be very weird for us
You're
not to
not
support
gonna
a
have,
Port
you're
Authority.
not gonna have a say-so,
Now,
believe me.
I don't think we're not gonna vote on, well,
Yeah.
can I get
Oh, that's it.
no, a motion to not accept,
Oh, first, close out the first motion.
well, I already did.
Oh, you did? Okay.
The first, it passes. So we agree with the Port Authority. Now, do we agree with the bridge increase?
So I would suggest, if you don't mind, before we go that far, get clarification on the actual Port Authority and what their intention is.
So,
Because I don't want us to
To say no.
do something that,
We recommend like to have it, and continue the analysis of it.
yes,
With,
That's-
with the.
We don't
with the
have
contingency.
clarification, and that's why we were,
Yeah, that's what we
that's
need.
why I was not in
That's-
favor,
All right.
because we don't know.
well, I voted in support of it so that they can basically tell us what it is. If you don't vote in support of it, because they won't, I think this will trigger them to actually look into a Port Authority and say, okay, so what exactly are we thinking
Yeah.
of doing here?
All right,
So actually come up with an answer of what it would be. At that point, let's say this Port Authority is gonna be made to get money from the bridge to build a
XYZ.
Maybe the
moving a
motion
flying
should be
part,
to
then
ask-
no.
So I'm gonna suggest that we don't make any more motions, that with the motion that we already have, that whatever, I write up where we write up something together, or I write up something that we agreed that we all voted for the Port Authority. Now, please clarify these following, so that we can move forward with accepting or not accepting.
But also clarity about no bridge increase. We gotta make sure that we want the Port Authority, we just don't want the bridge increase right now. We just wanna find out, like Jerry says.
Yes,
That's probably the top of the list for them, the bridge.
No, they're looking at the funding.
Yeah.
And we're looking, hey, we want the Port Authority, but come on, you're just throwing it in there with some other stuff. We want clarity on this.
So
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we need to look at, you know, the formation document, the operating authority of the port, what's it gonna do and how revenue-wise it would be funded, and will it be, the party controlling the spending with certain things, like it's mentioned here. I think we need to look at whatever legal document, certificate of formation, operating authority of the Port Authority, before we can even decide.
correct.
Well, they have to
That's what we're
decide.
asking for.
They're
That's
the
what
ones
we're
that have to trigger the Port Authority, the council.
So that's.
So we already decided.
That's our
That's-
our answer to their item sent to us.
And
All
this
right.
is-
See some legal document, can we review it here as an advisory, committee?
and-
Right.
and
Okay, so we've anything else on?
Just recollect
item number
on
one?
what Mr. Cavazos had mentioned, yes. What council member Perez wants is to kind of separate the port and the city. That the port goes and lobbies for their own money.
That
and
it
for
be
their own-
autonomous.
That it be autonomous, and that's probably the only way, but then again, the legislation says 100% of the toll bridges goes to the Port Authority, and I don't think they're gonna like that, they have to
Right.
amend that.
So I think we're gonna need a lot more help than just locally. We're gonna need, State Rep, Richard Raymond's help to amend that at the state level, once we come to an agreement on the verbiage. So, all right, first item, done. Second item, which is an item that would be affected by number one, if there would be a Port Authority, was update and discussion regarding the road leading to the World Trade Bridge import lot from Riverbank Road and any other matters incident thereto. I know that you were asking, Mr. Dominguez.
Okay, does anybody have information on that? Please.
Elizabeth Estrada Bridge System. Yes, right now what's going on is engineering is drawing the plans to go ahead and submit to TxDOT, so that's already on the works.
And who would pay for that?
It would be done in-house and most likely the bridge.
Bridge revenues.
Yes.
Originally, Ms. Limon said she would pay for it, so.
You can take it out of a
There you go.
retirement plan.
And apparently it's like a carport thing. So
Yes. It's
they thought
not
that
an
it was gonna be like the specs of TxDOT and that would be something
No,
different, but they
it's
said.
more like a carport type of deal.
A carport?
Yes, because it's only for the cars, it's not for trucks.
No.
That little road that goes up to the import
And
lot.
do we have an estimated cost?
Not at the moment.
Once
They're
the drawings are
yes,
done.
once those drawings go to TxDOT, more or less we'll be getting an estimate for that.
That's on city property? Or is
Well,
that?
it belongs to TxDOT, but they've already let the
And
city.
just for clarity, you said, it would be paid by the bridge funds, like existing bridge funds or anticipated? bridge funds?
Number,
Existing.
They have
existing.
money, they have money.
Let the record show that she said existing.
No, Mr. Chavez said that the bridge would pay for that little road.
They have
It's just-
they have those U-turn monies.
And those are, it's just a road to get to the import lot without going through Loop 20 and
And
doing
getting
all that
involved with the
fiasco.
trucks.
And we would go through the other side of the road and then we would cross. And once they built the fast lanes, well, now you have the 4 lanes plus the 2 fast lanes to cross. And so they stopped that because it was very dangerous. And it was a one-way in the beginning, but we would use it to cross. And so they stopped doing that. They were getting tickets. And so when there's a whole bunch of traffic just to get to the import lot, it was kind of crazy. So this little road is gonna get us up there. Customs is gonna use it, everybody's gonna use it, so everybody was in agreement
For the
with that.
sake of time, I think we've already gone back.
Absolutely.
So we got,
We're good here for an hour.
Bridge reports, yeah.
yeah,
It would be this section right here,
yes,
the connection.
yes. And you would have to walk across the trucks coming through those, booths?
No, actually, you would cross to get to the parking lot of the employees or the,
Oh, that's just a road to get across to the parking lot, that's it.
see, instead of going through the loop and doing all those things, you would go up there. I mean, a lot of people use it, Customs uses it right now. And so when they get up there,
You just have
you're
to
not gonna
wait.
cross till you see that the inspector's gonna tell you, go ahead, go, I'm not gonna give him his release, and, yeah. And so that's kind of what we talked to Mr. Del Rio, and that's kind of the plan, and they agreed with it. It was now, TechSot needs in writing.
Do
what
they have a
exactly-
timeline?
Not at the moment, because what they're working on is the actual specs at the engineering level. But they did guarantee that we would see something soon.
Okay, so I move to table this item again to the next meeting. We'll have this dragged on until we figure out exactly when, what, where.
Yeah, as soon as you have.
It's
that
just an
information,
update though,
then you
right?
can
There's
share it.
nothing, it's just an update discussion, nothing more, right?
Yeah, we don't have to vote on anything.
There's no vote.
There's nothing for us to vote on. Bridge staff report?
Yes.
Good turn.
Very good numbers.
Okay, so for commercial crossings, right now, we have at World Trade Bridge as of December 2024, over 190, close to 195,000. Colombia, above 26,000 overall, combined, 221,000. U-turns so far, they still continue to decrease. At World Trade Bridge, 121, Colombia at 9, coming up with a total of 130. Out of those 130 U-turns, they belong to 101 accounts. We do have 5,089 commercial accounts currently active. So those 101 are basically 2% of the customers that are having U-turns at this time. Next, you can see that out of those U-turns, we have 2 accounts that have had 4 U-turns, 2 accounts that have had 3. From there is 19 accounts with 2 U-turns and 78 accounts with 1 single U-turn. And overall, as of right now, revenues collected from these insufficient funds is a total of 62,455.75.
I got a question on this. I saw a message not too long ago, and I don't know if it was authorized by us, but it said that if you get turned around, you have to have a credit card on file. Is that mandatory now, or is it,
Yeah,
Yes.
that was authorized by us? I don't
that was
recall.
authorized by council.
Council, okay. I'm just making sure because I don't recall.
Well, we always asked for it, but then they said
They
that,
said that
that
was
it
a legal
was
reason they couldn't
illegal
do it, yeah.
or something, and then they finally, I guess, got around it, or, I don't know.
So it is legal, so that was a valid message then?
Yes.
So, if you- yeah, there's a huge drop off, and
Empieza en octubre.
Yes.
there's like a 1%, there's like a 50% drop off there, almost.
If you look at the overall for the past months, even at 121, we continue to see a drop in those numbers. And yes, now that is one of the rules that we have. If you do have U-turns, you are required to have a credit card on file and be in the auto replenish.
Yeah, I don't remember what month of this year it happened, but it did
I
happen.
just saw that last one, but I know it's like, we don't have 5, we have 4 now, so that's a good sign, that's a plus.
It started, the notice went live, starting, according to the actual notice, it says December 30th, 2024. That's when that rule went into effect. So,
I guess they got around the legality of it.
so in essence, now that they have, if I have a U-turn today, right? Then if I didn't have a credit card on file, clearly because I ran out of funds, now I have to leave one on file.
Yes.
So moving forward, the intention is positive in my opinion, because those 130 people that happened in January, let's just say it goes down to 100 in January, they're all gonna be required to do this. So this is gonna help tremendously, I feel, and by March, we should see a very, very small number
Minimal amount
of U-turns, because
yes.
now that it's Now that you have to leave a credit card when you get a U-turn, you have no choice in the matter, so that's good.
Yes, and since you're in the auto replenish, kicks in on an hourly basis.
Okay.
So even that helps a bit more to
That's
keep
even
you up
better.
to date with your
Not
funds.
wait until tomorrow
Exactly.
morning.
Yes,
So if you're running out, and let's say that your minimum, once you hit $20, it's gonna charge another
Yes.
whatever amount.
based on the amount that you put as a threshold on your account.
But the minimum is always gonna be at least for one border crossing, correct? Like the total of $24.75 or whatever.
Do we have any case in which, because it could happen, that you have a credit card on file and for some reason you got stolen or they have declined?
Yes.
Do you have an alert that you can
Yes.
advise the user?
We started seeing that, that we would request our customers to be in the auto replenish and have a credit card on file. But yes, for X reason, it happens that it got an alert and it didn't go through. It creates an entry of a suspended account. And every morning, what staff does in the front office is they pull the suspended report account. They review all these transactions manually. First thing in the morning, they reactivate if it's an issue like that. It's an error or what have you, we reactivate it every morning.
Okay.
You know, just for clarity, where does that $62,000 go to? Because that's gonna go to zero if that keeps on going on.
And there's 500,000 from the previous years.
Yeah, they keep it, it's an enterprise.
So it's, so what I was explaining when we asked, hey, can we use the monies to send people to travel to Laredo Day, to Washington, to Austin, all that, is that those monies have been consumed by the department as part of their budget.
God bless you.
Ah, ya se lo acabaron.
No hay nada.
Ah, ya no vine eso junto, güey.
No.
No.
No viniste cuando lo gastaron.
Are we gonna stay here much longer or not?
Well, if I get a motion to,
I'm making motion adjourn or make
Oh, but
motion
we
to
need to check, we need to put
Schedule
the next
oh,
meeting.
we need to
That's
schedule the
it.
next meeting.
Just 5 minutes.
Sure.
All right, 5 minutes. We got third Wednesday, everybody look at your calendars, third Wednesday of February.
Raising the
Brian,
fees.
how many
What's
Wednesdays
up?
do we have?
Yeah, well, he said he was gonna, no, they said no, we're not
No,
gonna
we,
raise.
What?
You
no, we
said
don't
you
want
didn't
that.
vote, we didn't vote on raising the
we didn't,
fees.
we didn't vote on it, but
We're
We
not,
are not
no,
gonna vote on
we're
that.
not gonna vote until we get more clarification on the
You're just gonna table this
We're
one?
gonna table that until the next
Yes.
one.
We're just telling we support,
Okay.
we
It's your
support
birthday,
Port Authority,
Fernando.
but we just don't
The
support the bridge
third
raising.
Wednesday of the.
Mr. Chair, my
I know
birthday?
it's not, you're not, it's
I'm not Fernando.
Laurel.
Oh, yeah,
I was- yeah.
yes.
Mr. Chair, what
Yes.
was the decision on the toll? On the,
The toll was, we didn't vote on it, we needed more clarification on it. What we are gonna suggest is, we voted for the Port Authority.
right?
But we want more clarification on how those funds will be allocated to that Port Authority before we even consider the vote on the increase of the tolls.
Yeah, because you may get asked at council, that's their priority is the toll.
Right,
And I will say
So-
there's not enough clarity for us to.
right, because it's.
where the money's going, what's the,
Where it's going exactly, we want that to be adopted first before we start talking about funding and increasing the tolls.
correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
That is,
So the third-
staff gonna write that up, send it up?
I don't know, I'll email Mr. Richards to see if he'll do it, I'll do it, whatever, so.
The
just for
19th?
The next meeting is the 19th tentatively, I mean, as long as Mr. Richards, we have it every third Wednesday, we have this room every third Wednesday of the month, so. Everybody put it on their.
February?
Everybody good? February 19th.
WBCA.
What happens on that day?
Oh, pero no hay nada, ¿no?
Wednesday?
The Thursday's a parade.
Thursday's the kids parade, and then Saturday.
Thursday, I don't think there's not, that Wednesday
Oh, I
shouldn't
don't
be
think
in
so
there.
either. All right, so we'll set it for,
That's a disappointment.
Wednesday,
Got it.
February 19th.
Good,
I'm good.
We're good with that?
awesome.
All right, great. Motion adjourned?
Motion, adjourn.
1 second. All right, thank you very much.